December 7th. Here we go. I would call this the Friday, December 17th, 2021 meeting of the Tecumseh Police Service Board to order. And I note right now, Margaret, thank you for coming in. I know you were on another call. We are awaiting Deputy Mayor Bichetti. He is not here, otherwise everyone else is. With regard to the agenda today, are there any declaration of pecuniary interest with regard to this agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to item D, and that's the approval of the agenda. That the agenda for the Police Service Board meeting dated December the 17th, 2021, as duplicated and delivered to the members thereof, be accepted. I'm looking for a mover.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Seconded by Mark Gomes. All in favor? Thank you. We'll move on. Item E, approval of previous minutes. And there are actually two, October the 14th and November 30th, a special meeting. I've read them both. I see nothing to discuss, but we will have a motion that the regular meetings of October the 14th, 2021 Police Service Board meeting and the special minutes of the November 30th, 2021 Police Service Board meeting as duplicated and delivered to the members thereof be adopted. And I'm looking for a mover. Thank you, Mark. Seconded by Mayor McNamara. All in favor? Thank you. Passed. Okay. Delegations, and there are none. So we're moving right along. I by the way, before I get too deeply into this, as this is our last meeting of the year, probably a great opportunity for me as chair to thank everybody for participating so well over a very trying time. Certainly our police service was just absolutely flogged. Our municipality, our councilors, our mayor, our deputy mayor, and certainly our admin staff were flogged, and everybody is pulled together very beautifully. So to end the year, I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we'll reconvene again after the holidays. And so that's just from me to you. Thank you. So. Deputy Mayor Bichetti, thank you for joining in. We're right now on item G, the OPP monthly report. Glenn, I don't know if you'll be making any comment here or if you want Staff Sergeant Smith to make the presentation. I'm going to assume that we're going to do the one November or October and November. I wanted maybe you let me know who's going to make the presentation.
Yep. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And Jamie will provide the overview this afternoon.
Excellent. Jamie, once again, if you would just call out the page number that you're looking at, and we'll make sure we keep up with you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Chair Hales, your worship. If you want to go to page 3, Sean. And I'll just discuss the top calls for service once they're up there for Tecumseh. And I don't think they'll come to any surprise to you, but our top calls for service are the usual traffic complaints, alarms, MVCs. We do have some property checks there, and you might be aware over the last, and this is going back to November, but this past weekend we did have some break-and enters to some beauty salon stores and whatnot, and they happen throughout Windsor and different areas throughout the county. So we're dealing with that, and that's one of the reasons why we do these property checks and set up in different areas where they could potentially be hit. If you go to page 5, for the total calls for service, and we're down slightly, just a 0.9% decrease, but in Tecumseh, it looks like we're down pretty close to 100 calls for service in November. Overall, we're seeing a 9.3 increase throughout the county. If you want to go to page 6. Compared to last year, our violent crime, we're seeing an overall decrease of 2.9. But in Tecumseh here, we did see an uptick from 2 to 6. And in relation to those violent crimes, it was basically domestics and sexual assaults that we were dealing with there. For property crime, the went down in Tecumseh. We're down from 33 to 27. Overall in the county, we're seeing a 5.6% increase. Year to date, property crimes down 17.6%. If you flip to page 7, the accidents, overall, we're seeing a 20% decrease there. Tecumseh, we've seen a bit of a decrease, 6 less compared to the previous year. In regards to MVC fatals, we did have that accident, a very tragic accident on Highway 77 involving a older couple and a transport truck that was backing into a driveway. So that was unfortunate. And then we had the one, and I think we discussed this the last Police Services Board meeting in regards to the 2-year-old that passed away in a motor vehicle collision on County Road 42. And that was in Lakeshore. The impaireds, nothing in Tecumseh this past in November. We did see some in Lakeshore and Kingsville, but 0, we're seeing a 33.3% decrease, but we are still seeing many impaired drivers. This past weekend, again, I think there were 2 that we arrested. We arrested one last night in Leamington, so we're keeping busy. And with the holiday season, hopefully people will plan ahead and arrange for rides. Driver's license suspensions, we saw 3. We're seeing a decrease there. Criminal code charges, a little bit of a decrease compared to last year. Sorry, Sean, I know you're, should have told you what page. We're on page 9. We're seeing 11 there. The drug offenses, we're seeing a huge decrease there, 42.9% decrease. Page 10, POA charges, we're seeing a significant decrease there. And I asked prior to this meeting to have our analysts look to confirm some of these statistics. Comes down to data integrity. And I know the inspector and I and other staff sergeants and sergeants have been speaking to our members in regards to the need to be out there with traffic stops, education, enforcement. So we are down there. So I'm hoping next month we will see an increase there. We're down to 31. And as you can see, the traffic stops all across, Essex County, we're down there. We're seeing a big decrease there as well. So that needs to improve, and those conversations have been had. And I know everybody's busy, and the holiday season's upon us coming up with people being off and whatnot, but we have asked for that enforcement to increase. Mental health response unit, we're seeing a bit of an increase there, 15%. And in Tecumseh, we did see a decrease compared to last year. We had 19 and it went down to 10. 911 hangups, we're seeing them go down. False alarms on page 12. Had 38 ride programs. We're seeing 3 in the festive ride program. We've got the guys gearing up right now to go out and do rides within the community now. Foot patrol hours, we saw quite an increase, or 107 hours there. And then the auxiliary hours, we're at 5. And then other than that, the notable investigations, we just had, that's page 13, Sean. We had our community street crimes unit investigate a fraud of a victim that responded to a Kijiji ad to rent a cottage. The family traveled all the way to Gravenhurst to only find out that the cottage was not available. Production orders were obtained. And this creates a lot of work and some warrant writing, or they're doing production orders for 4 separate transactions totaling $2,900. The amounts were directed into a bank account, and I don't know if it's 3 males. 3 males were charged, and they were the age 21, 22, and 22 years old. All were released, but we see this quite often with some of those scams going on Kijiji with the cottages. They'll capture pictures from various places and have money sent to them. So I'm open to any questions or comments.
You're muted there, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate that. So, Jamie, with regard to traffic stops, I got a little lost in your verbiage. Did you say that the traffic stops are down because you're not doing them? Or did you say the traffic stops were down because the officers who are making stops were not reporting them properly?
It could be, it's a data integrity issue. It comes down to if sometimes, and that's what I'm trying to work through. Sometimes if a traffic stop's not recorded through the communication center, it might not be captured. So the officers could go out there and do traffic stops, but perhaps they don't call it in, which they should. It's an officer safety issue, and we ask that all officers make that announcement over the radio for officer safety reasons, and so other officers know that they're out, and also that it records. But at times the radio can get busy, and some officers will activate their lights and deal with an individual and might miss that call in or whatnot. So when I look at the tickets and I see 31 tickets and 14 vehicle stops, I think to myself, either somebody got multiple tickets or there's some sort of issue with the data that's been inputted. And that's what I'm trying to work through to capture that. We did go to an e-ticket system, which will create an occurrence automatically when the officer makes a traffic stop. And it's new technology that we're using. But some officers are old school and they still just want to write that paper ticket, right? They don't want to go through using the computer and stuff like that. And we're trying to transition to all e-ticketing, because within that e-ticketing, whenever we do a warning, that will be captured on our system. So the next time somebody stops that person, maybe it's their first time at first infraction, they were provided a warning, and then the next time they're stopped, they see a warning and say, okay, well, the person's maybe not getting the message, we're going to issue a fine this time. So it's a great tracking system, and there's stories, and the inspector can probably share some if you wish, but that tracking system has resulted in some criminal cases and tracking of persons to help us with some very serious cases. I know it was up in Ottawa, if I remember correctly, where that data captured was able to put somebody in an area where a crime was committed.
I appreciate that. The reason I ask, I guess I'm devil's advocate for the entire board, is monthly when we look at these provincial offenses, traffic stops, and things like that. They seem to be numbers that are lower than we would have anticipated. So it would be good if we get good data to look at what is actually transpiring in Tecumseh. Thank you. I'll open it up for any other questions with regard to this report. Mark, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Staff Sergeant Jamie. I noticed on the alarms, both month of October and November, we were quite high. November, we had 38, and October, we had 45. Is there any reasoning why they seem to be higher again? Is it because of COVID, or people not being out and about more often, or?
Yeah, good question, Mark. And it could be, a lot of times it's the businesses. And I know we have had a lot of wind events recently. And I don't know, I'd have to track back to see if they were back in November, but a lot of times those wind events will set off people's alarms as well. So I'd have to look at when we did have the wind events, because I know we're quickly ending the year, and I can't remember if it was I know we just had one recently, but I'm not sure without, looking as to if it was businesses or residential alarms that were going off. I'm not sure. I don't really have a solid answer for you there, and I apologize.
Nope, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Your Worship.
Yeah, just on that. Yeah, hopefully there's no repeat false alarms, because I know we had at times we have issues, especially in the industrial park. It's kind of I'll get it fixed, type thing. But hopefully it's not causing that particular issue. Just I was curious, Staff Sergeant, on when you mentioned about the POAs and kind of an anomaly in that. It's ironic. I was reading. I haven't read it all, but I was reading the Auditor General's report on the review in the OPP, and there was a mention from the Auditor General on the reduction of POAs, not just for us, but throughout. And as I was reading, some of it is some detachments in that are short of personnel. And so that could be adding to it. I'm curious if the chain of commands come down and basically said, look, the Auditor General, I'm sure after a while they look at what's been audited. And again, it was that portion. I don't know if that is playing into it as well, in your opinion, or directive is coming down from the West region or certainly from Aurelia.
Yeah, and I'll let the inspector comment there.
Yeah, no, not to cut you off, Jamie, so please join in after. I know this is at the commissioner's level, number of officers that are off work. That's not something that we can control, and I know that he is dealing with that at the governmental level and also with the senior government leaders as well to see exactly what we can do. So I know they aggressively kind of work in that particular situation as far as filling the vacancies, but we can only kind of speak to what's going on in Essex County. Unfortunately, just within since the fall, we've been starting to get a number of new recruits. So we've waited probably a couple of years, 2 to 3 years to start getting our vacancies filled. Now they're starting to fill these vacancies, probably because based on the volume of calls for service that we're handling down here. So it's slowly coming back up to what we need. But again, I think it's mentioned in the Auditor General report and by the spokesperson at headquarters as well, that all the priority-based calls, all 911 calls are answered immediately. We've never had that instance where that has not happened down here. So that's most important.
Okay, anything to add, Jamie? I think that's pretty thoroughly covered.
Yeah, I think that the inspector touched on everything, and I think that's, well documented in the report from the Auditor General, the challenges that we're facing. And unfortunately, we're no different than other areas. And, people are off for various reasons and something out of our control at times.
Just for the record, and maybe for those people who are listening in today, that Auditor General report was received late this week by our board, and it's just been circulated. So I encourage all the board members to read it thoroughly. I've gone through about half of it. Perhaps next month, if there is anything else that we want to discuss that's contained in that report, I'm sure that Inspector Miller will be up to speed by then too. It seems that this has got into our hands just very recently. So we'll just see if maybe that'll generate some discussion next meeting. Are there any other questions with regard to this? Then I would move that the OPP report for the months of October and November be received. I'm looking for a mover. Mayor McNamara, thank you. Seconded, Deputy Mayor Paquetti. All in favor? Thank you. Passed. Item H on our agenda is reports. There are no reports due. Item I is communications actions required, and there are no communications that require actions at this time. Item J in our agenda is communications for information purposes. We have several. I found one of interest was the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards October 21st letter to the mental the Honorable Michael. Is it Tibolo? Tabolo, thank you, Your Worship. With regard to the mental health service calls, very interesting, and in light of the fact that we have a very active mental health response unit here in Essex County, I found that very interesting. But all the other ones were for general information with regard to actions taken on COVID, the changing applications, enforcements required for COVID. So we won't go through them. I think everybody's had them and have read them. So I'm looking for a motion that the correspondence is detailed in this section, items 1 through 5, be received. Looking for a mover. Paul, thank you. And Mark seconded. All in favor? Passed. Thank you. Old business, a call for applications for 2022, 2023, and 2024, 2025 for community safety and policing grant. Blake, I wonder if you wanted to speak to this. We have a lot of documentation. I don't know if we really need to go over it in detail. It's many, many, many pages, and I know you've put a lot of effort into it, but maybe if you could give us sort of the Reader's Digest version of what all this correspondence and the application forms contain, and then we can certainly move support.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Chairperson, Mr. Mayor, and the rest of the board. Good afternoon. I'll try to be brief because, yeah, there's a lot of material here, but just to go over it, there's essentially a three-part process to this application. There's the actual written portion to the application. There's a budget portion, and then there's basically a report back on the results that you're looking to achieve, and that would be required to report back to the ministry every 6 months. So there's quite a lot of material in here. Essentially what this is a good working draft. It will be just edited down, but this is pretty much close to a final document. It will be due on January 14th. This document's been prepared for the 4 police service boards in Essex County that have a contract with the OPP. The total requested amount based on the 4 boards will be 1.25 and $648.90 exactly over the process of 3 years. And on the budget form, it's detailed what each year, what the expenses would be. And also in the application process, it goes year by year, what the expected schedule is supposed to be for items listed on the budget. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. And what I did with this, it would be one application. I took all the mental health crisis services that we're doing in this county and condensed it to one. So it's easier to report back, and it's a little bit of an easier read. It just makes it more complicated for me, but that's okay. So,
And we should point out, of course, this is still a draft, you know, and it's a work in progress, but so.
Yeah.
Are there any questions from the members of the board? I've gone through it. It's a huge document. Margaret, did you have anything that you needed to ask about this? No, I don't think so either. So are there any questions at all? Well, then I would look for a motion that the police service board, that the police services board of the town of Tecumseh support in principle the draft application by the Essex County OPP to the Ministry of the Solicitor General for the local priority stream of the community saving and policing, community safety and policing grant for 2022-23 and 2024-25 for the continuation of the mobile crisis rapid response team and youth crisis response team. And that's a whole lot, but we've been over this several times, other meetings. I'm looking for a mover. Paul, thank you. A seconder. Did I see Joe that you seconded? Okay, all in favor of support? Carried. Thank you so much. So, okay. We want another hurdle done. A new business, the Mental Health Act, the definition of apprehension. This was come up offline. Paul Sweet had read some documentation on this, and it's a very interesting topic. And Paul has agreed to speak on this issue. And so just to bring us up to speed with what's going on in the province, actually across Canada, but in the province of Ontario in specific. So Paul, I'll yield the floor to you, please.
Sure. Just as a bit of background, under the Mental Health Act of Ontario, the only powers of apprehension really lie with the police. Doctors can, Justice of the Peace can issue a form under the Act for apprehension, and so can a doctor. But beyond that, it's solely rests with the police. So, and that's been a very difficult situation it's put police into. Obviously, there's situations where there's a danger, an imminent danger to the individual and an imminent danger to the people around them that police have to be involved, but that's not in all the cases. And but because only the police have that authority, it's put a huge burden on the police. And I noticed, I mean, very recently, a number of the larger police services have started going to their boards to request support to ask the government to change the Mental Health Act to allow apprehension by people other than just police officers, to try and alleviate some of the pressure that our frontline services are seeing. And I mean, we know that I have even on the report we got today from the OPP, our mental health calls are, and interestingly enough, went up 15%. And I see where the one place I noticed that Waterloo, that the same thing was actually the same percentage. Their calls had gone up, and they were calling on this is what started the conversation that, we need to ask the government to broaden that thing, to take some of that load off the police. And as I think we're all realize too, that mental health calls can escalate sometimes with the police presence. But unfortunately, we say what it is now, that there's no option on apprehension, that the police have to be there. So I guess it's just an FOI to the board that this looks to be, from what I can see, this is something that's coming down the pipe that'll probably be driven by some of our larger police services and police services board in the province. But maybe in the meantime, for one of our next meetings, the OPP could maybe locally give us their thoughts on that situation of asking the province to expand that definition to, registered nurses, ambulance personnel, that type of thing. So I don't know that I haven't seen anything specific of who it would go to, but I think that's where they're looking at. So just a FYI to the board.
Yeah, Paul, thank you very much, first of all. And I suspect that if the Ontario Provincial Police is going to move forward with a request for a change in the Mental Health Act, that will probably come out of Aurelia. Maybe next meeting, Inspector Miller could maybe make an inquiry to see if that's even been something that's been started to be mulled over out of Aurelia. Mayor McNamara, I saw your hand come up, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Paul, for bringing this up. I can tell you that as the warden of Essex County and a responsibility of EMS, it's very evident that the mental health crisis slash opioid crisis, drug overdose crisis, and so forth, as we move down the pipe, there's no question a lot of our frontline people, police as well, but our EMS and our nurses are sometimes handcuffed in terms of, and I use that as a pretty liberally, but where folks should be, apprehended or held back, and they can't. There's many examples that I know our EMS chief can give you as well in those situations, and where folks are released when they shouldn't, and creates a lot of havoc and within the community. So I fully support the intention. I think the act should be changed and strengthened a little bit, and the vulnerability of people, especially now that we've gone through, I call it suppression, because of COVID and so forth. It's really upped up the ante, and I'm sure that police see it every day, more so than you and I. But my involvement as warden and the dialogue I have with my EMS personnel, you can see the struggles that they face on an ongoing basis. And if you would have read the article in the Windsor Star yesterday, there's another one, a follow-up today. That's just one example. Even the EMS personnel was threatened because took an individual into the hospital, and the person just released itself. And so there's real concern for the safety of all first responders, and there has to be a little bit more meat added to the bone here in terms of the apprehension piece. So thank you for bringing that up, Paul.
So, Paul, I think your point was really well taken, that we'll keep our eye on this. And if other larger police boards formulate motions with regard to the change in the Mental Health Act, we can certainly look at it and support. The only question that I had was, maybe I didn't articulate it properly, with regard to the Ontario Provincial Police, if when they speak about this at Aurelia or wherever, with regard to whether they would want to support a change in the Mental Health Act, is there any worry that maybe we would be putting people like EMS and our workers and RNs, et cetera, in harm's way by having them become an apprehending authority? I'm, I don't know. Maybe perhaps that's being looked at by the people in Aurelia, or maybe other major police services across the province are looking at that. But that'll be interesting as it unfolds. Is there any other comments with regard to Paul's report? Well, that's excellent. Thank you, Paul. And I think we'll try to keep that on the front burner. As we move forward, the next thing I note is that we have our proposed schedule of meetings for 2022. And I am looking for a motion, a mover that the Police Services Board approve the following meeting dates in 2022. That would be February the 10th, April the 14th, June the 9th, September the 8th, October the 13th, and December the 8th. And we also note that 2022 is an election year, and with the new council appointments, I believe also that would be a reapplication of myself to be a member of from the community at large. So I'm looking for someone to move that motion for the meetings. Thank you, Your Worship, and seconded by, thank you, Mark. All in favor? It is passed.
Just a comment.
Please do.
That Deputy Mayor Becchetti and myself will be looking for reappointment too.
Excellent. Well, I think as the mayor, you're the only guaranteed person on the board.
No, I'm talking about October 22.
Oh, of course, the bigger mandate. Yes, of course, yes. Well, there's confidence, Your Worship. I just assumed that there would be no issue. Mark, please.
Mr. Chair, you mentioned April the 14th. It's actually April the 7th.
Yeah.
On mine, it's the 14th.
Oh.
Well,
I got the 7th as well as Mark.
Well, I have two agenda. I have one for
Must be a just in case one.
maybe I don't know. You know what? Ellen is listening in. She's going to come online, I hope.
Yeah, my apologies. It should be the 14th, the second Thursday of the month. So I'll correct that in the schedule and recirculate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen.
Sorry.
Well, one error in 10 years is not a bad rate, Ellen. Okay, so anyway, that's the motion. I'm looking at mover second. I think we passed that and we've had comment on it. There is no other new business, I see. So our next meeting is scheduled for February the 10th, 2022 at 4:30. And that's, I'm looking for now, with there being no further business that I can see, a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mark, seconded by Paul, all in favor? Done and done. Merry Christmas to all of you and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
We'll see you in the new year.
Merry Christmas, everyone.